Well, we want to get an instant audit on this. Let's go to Matt McCall, president of Penn Financial Group, and Ron Davari, founder and CEO of NewOak Capital. Your thoughts, Matt. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I think something needs to be changed, maybe a little bit more regulation. The problem is government typically over-regulates, so that's probably going to be an issue going forward. And I think the real solution here is maybe the agencies that should be overlooking the financial system should do their job. And I don't think the SEC did their job, and several other agencies, and the government themselves never really did their job. And I think that's why things got out of control. So I think the first step is maybe get all these agencies together so they're all working on the same page, and from there implement the rules and regulations we already have in place. Then maybe expand from there and see what we can do.
So, Ron, obviously Matt's saying don't add on new regulation when we're not already reinforcing what's on the table.
Well, I think there has to be some changes. We know that the fact that some of the banks got into a lot of things that they weren't supposed to be, and their incentive structure was set up that they were in the shipping business rather than really holding the credit. They thought so, but so we need to really go back and figure out whether the banks are in the lending business or are they actually in the capital markets business. So I think the separation of investment banking from the regular banking, maybe perhaps one area that needs to be focused on.
The problem is, though, like Ron just said, it's going back. We're constantly going back. Once something blows up and there's an issue, we go back and try to change things. As we're going back, the financial industry is creating new products right now that's going to create the next bubble. There's going to be bubbles, so I think going back doesn't help anything. We need to move forward.
I want to share with you, Stephen Schwartzman, the chief CEO and co-founder of Blackstone Group, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post, very, very interesting, on financial regulatory reform, saying, yes, of course, this country does need financial reform. He says, but we're debating this hugely important issue in an inflammatory political atmosphere in which key participants seem determined to single out the banks. So his problem is the environment in which we're trying to create these changes. He says it's just not conducive to having it work out.
Right. We're trying to debate these things in public rather than go. These are extremely technical questions to be answered. You can't really do it in a political forum. You really have to sit back and really put a lot of thoughts into it in terms of what really caused the issue. What really caused the issue was, the banks were in areas where they were not supposed to be. And there were issues where they actually left the regular banking activities because there was a lot more profitability, seemingly a lot more profitability in areas in investment banking. So they left all the good standards of lending behind them. If you were at Chase at one point, you would go through a credit training. I have to come across some of the old-timers who have had that. A lot of the new analysts have never been through a credit training. Yeah. So we need to fix that first.
That's a whole other point, but a very interesting one as well. And we're going to talk about more of this later. I mean, he actually went on to say to single out banks for blame is dangerous to the economy. So
it's a populist view, though. It's a populist view, and
certainly.
It's easy for the president to get it across.
Certainly, but a man that you have to kind of listen to, right? So, Matt, Ron, thank you very much.
Let's have an instant audit on this. Let's also bring back Matt McCall of Penn Financial Group and Ron Davari of NewOak Capital, and, of course, Nick Hastings here in London. Let's begin with Matt. Matt, how disappointed were you with the way the EU handled the whole Greece issue yesterday? And maybe we can follow up with GDP numbers out of there. But first of all, Matt, just how you think the EU handled it and what they need to do now.
Well, I think we need to see a definitive plan. Until then, it's all speculation, and the speculation is going to move the market up and down like we saw yesterday. We rallied on speculation and something will happen. I think the EU needs to step up. Whether they're going to say they're going to bail out Greece 100%, say that. If they're not going to, say that as well. The wavering back and forth is not good. The uncertainty is going to drive this market crazy. It drives me crazy every day. So I wish they'd come out with a plan, and they need to do something soon. Actually, because this is not something new. We've known Greece is in trouble. So let's get a plan together and let's move forward.
And Ron, apparently the Greek Prime Minister didn't even ask for any financial help officially, which makes you kind of wonder exactly where his head is. And the Greeks are being told to reduce their budget deficit by 4% this year. I mean, is any of this really feasible?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. They have about more than 70 billion of debt to roll over the next year, and the market is going to continuously ask for real response. So they're going to have to roll back 10 years of undisciplined spending. So they really need to first figure out what their budget plans are going to be. I think the the Union is not going to let them down. They're going to bail them out for now, but they're going to ask for really serious discipline from them. And the question is, are the Greeks ready to really take the poison pill?
Exactly. And Nick, let me ask you that. So if a bailout comes, the Germans, certainly the biggest economy in Europe and the most stable, but we just found out their GDP went nowhere in the fourth quarter. So the last thing they probably want to do is start issuing loan guarantees to get some shaky collateral in Greece.
Absolutely, Ashley. You've got to remember, this is not only an economic and a financial story, it's also very much a political story. You think the Germans want to bail out the Greeks? I mean, let's face it, we all know they've been bending the rules ever since they entered the euro, and they've been cooking the books and everything else. Why will the German population feel that they want to go and bail out the Greeks? I mean, for no other reason, they're probably freezing in Germany while they still got warmer weather in Greece. You know, it's not. You've got to put the politics in there to really think about this. So this is going to be a story that's going to run and run. Anybody's expecting a quick and early solution is going to be sorely disappointed. You've not only got the politics, you've not only got Greece itself, but also you've got the spillover onto those other indebted countries. You know, the Spain, the Italy, the Portugal. How they're going to fare out of this, and also what's going to happen to the banks that actually are owed all this money in the meantime. How are they going to suffer as a result of this?
And Nick, I think it comes down to the euro.
It's a multifaceted thing.
Nick, I think it comes down to the euro as well. I mean, I think that, yeah, you know, why is Germany stepping in? It's political, but it's also the fact that they are the largest economy in Europe, and they do not want to see the euro fall apart. Now, longer that anybody sits on the sidelines, the euro is going to continue to, you know, move lower. So I think they're stepping in, you know, for their currency as well. So, I mean, you know, even though they're different countries, it's all the same currency.
Absolutely,
exactly.
And I think that's a very important point. And I think if it continues to decline, the euro, and the trouble is that all this will put increased pressure on it. The thing is, at the same time, though, maybe the politicians won't be so worried about the euro continuing to slide right now, because it's actually helpful for their economies, especially when growth, as we've just seen, is looking so questionable. So, you know, it's a double-sided thing. But yeah, the feeling is that, yes, the euro will continue. But if the markets are reassured that it's not going to split apart because Greece isn't going to default, then, you know, there's not maybe quite so much pressure on them to resolve this issue right away. And it's just going to be a slow, rumbling process.
And again, let me bring in Ron here. Ron, you know, we're talking about Greece, and we mentioned this yesterday. It's about 2% of the Eurozone's GDP. Is the concern globally a little overblown or not?
No, I think this is actually a real serious issue. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we're going into a cycle where we need to be spending, but at the same time, the budget deficit is a very big problem for not just Greece, but the entire Europe. So, and this is happening exactly when Germany and France themselves have to worry about their own spending plans, and they need to also tighten their own belts. So I think this is just the beginning of the volatile environment where we had the banking crisis. Now we're coming into government bond crisis. And as we just heard this morning, China is tightening their belt in terms of making sure that they're not going to face. So this is going to go around the globe a few times before it really settles down. Till we really get through this, you're going to have to expect a lot of volatility, you know, and that's really the story of the day. So we're going to have weak growth globally, but a steady growth, and that's what we have to face.
And I just got one quick question for Matt. Matt, you know, does this put the ECB in a difficult situation? Because they've been wanting to rein in all this fiscal, all this economic stimulus, but that would be a death sentence for some of these countries, including Greece.
Yeah, you're right, Ashley. They're not going to rein in anytime soon, even though they'd like to. The spending will continue. And Ron just brought up spending, you know, in Europe. This brings a light to spending here in the United States as well. Spending is out of control all over the world. So, yes, this Greece may be small, but it does bring, you know, to light a lot of spending, a lot of problems we're going to have going forward.
And you know what, Nick? Do you think the Germans would love to go back to the Deutschmark if they could?
I still have a few of those
around. An awful lot of them who would.
That's why we still have the pound. It may not be worth much, but at least we don't have the euro. All right, guys. Matt, Ron, and Nick, thank you so much for talking about this issue. I'm sure it's going to be a talker for a while to come. All right, let's go back.